2, quantitative research, quarter 2, for weeks 4 to 7 lessons of ETCOR, Educational Research Center, through its advocacy, Project SAGIP, everyone. This is a free webinar for grades 11 and 12 Filipino students. I am pleased to welcome you to the webinar on Practical Research 2. It is always our goal to help researchers love and embrace the culture of research and responding to the challenge that education must continue despite the presence and threat of COVID-19 pandemic. We would like to inform everybody, especially our guests today. There might be some students who are new to this webinar. ETCOR Educational Research Center has this project SAGIP MANANALIKSIK for everyone, and we would like to acknowledge the presence of our overall project coordinator, Dr. Bernadette Lijarde, and our head research consultant, Dr. D. Sanchez. Good evening, sir. Good evening din po, Dr. Lijarde.
Good evening po, ma'am.
So, in this virtual room, I would like to recognize our participants coming from the different secondary schools, both public and private, from different public and private sectors and groups. We welcome you to this free webinar. So we have this outline. I hope our participants would expect to learn about the topic today, which focuses on data collection using appropriate instruments, data presentation and analysis, which should be presented in tabular or graphical forms, and statistical techniques to use to analyze the data. To start, I would like to remind our participants our rules that must be observed as our webinar, as we continue our webinar tonight. Please write the acronym of your last name, then first name. So for example, my name is Ellen Grace Soberano, so I have to place first my the acronym of my institution, the institution which is Central Philippine State University. Then please place your questions in the chat box, and please remember to mute your microphone. Always be mindful of background noise. So as we continue on this webinar, I would like to remind everybody about rules to remember. And by the way, I am your moderator for tonight's webinar. I am Ellen Grace Tingson Soberano. I am an instructor of the Central Philippine State University. So if you have questions, please write your question in the chat box. Feel free, and I hope everybody will learn much from this. And please write some questions in the chat box and do some notes in your sheets of paper. So thank you very much. Now, I think our speaker is now ready, but before that, let me introduce first our speaker for tonight. Our lecturer for tonight on quantitative research is actually a graduate of Bachelor of Secondary Education, major in Physical Science at Aklan State University. He finished Master of Arts in Teaching, major in General Science, and also finished his Doctor of Education, major in Science Education at Philamer Christian University, Rojas City, Capiz, and has units in Doctor of Philosophy, major in Research and Evaluation at Iloilo State College of Fisheries, Iloilo. Presently, he is a teacher too and school research coordinator of Regional Science High School for Region 6, teaching different science and research subjects in senior high school. He is also the district research planning coordinator and ICT on data management in District of Kalibo to College Kalibo, teaching physics. He's also a part-time instructor at STI College Kalibo, teaching physics and physical science for senior high school. He was also awarded as Outstanding Research Advisor in the field of robotics and intelligent machine during the 2019 Division Science and Technology Fair in the Division of Aklan. He is a proprietor and research consultant of Discover, Copy Editing and Statistics, a research firm in Kalibo, Aklan. He also served as a research consultant, outside expert, panelist, and statistician for both undergraduate and graduate theses and dissertations and the different and private higher education institutions. Our dear webinar participants, our guest, please welcome our lecturer for tonight's webinar, Dr. Mikko Jan D. Lopez. Sir, the screen is now yours.
Okay. Hello po, good evening.
Good evening po.
Mag-share lang po ako ng screen. Yes po. Yes, mayad-ayad na gabi katuntanan in Aklanon word, in term, language, or good evening. Okay. Last Sunday, that was mga 9 a.m., may gwapong lalaki na tumawag sa akin at gumising sa akin. At sabi niya daw po may emergency. At sabi niya po sa akin na dahil daw po si Prof. Dina ay walang boses, kailangan ko daw pong saluhin si Mang Dina at magbigay po ng lecture about sa topic na ito. At dahil po medyo nahiya po ako kay Sir Richard, nag-say yes po ako. And I think maitatawid ko din po itong lecture. Okay po.
Salamat
so
po, sir. Thank you po.
Sa mga senior high school, walang anuman po, sir. Basta ikaw, malakas ka po sa akin. Sabi nga daw po nila, pag teacher ka, dapat 24/7 ready. Okay po, sige. Tayo na po't mag-umpisa. Okay, ako po muli si Dr. Mikko Jan Lopez. Ako po ay isang guro sa Regional Science High School for Region 6. At natutuwa po ako para may nakita akong isang participant dito na aking estudyante. Yan, si Karil. Hello, Karil. Okay. So, my topic for this evening is about finding answers through data collection. And ito po ay swak na swak at napapanahon dahil we are in the Quarter 2, weeks 4 to 7, ito pong topic na ito. And this is MELCs-aligned. Okay po. So, this is our learning objectives for tonight. You're going to collect data using appropriate instruments, presents and interprets data in tabular or graphical forms, and uses statistical techniques to analyze data, the study of differences and relationship limited only for bivariate analysis. Okay, so before we proceed to the main topic, let us discuss first what is a data collection. Okay, so data collection po, it is an activity that allows you researcher to obtain the relevant information regarding or aligned to your research questions, to your statement of the problem, or to your objectives. And it is performed, paano tayo makakuha ng data, we utilize different research instruments. And tonight, I will be discussing to you two commonly used instruments in quantitative research. Okay. So, these are the two data collection tools and instruments. So, ayan po yung commonly. We have also the observation and the interview. Pero usually at the senior high school level, ito po yung usually na notice ko na ginagamit. Okay. So, what is a questionnaire? When we speak of a questionnaire, it is a paper-based electronic tool for collecting information of questions or indicators that the participants need to answer. So it is a set of questions, statements, and indicators that the participants need to answer. Okay, and in quantitative study, it is a questionnaire is typically uses a Likert scale. So we are using usually the 3-point Likert scale. We have the 5-point Likert scale. So from this example, we are using the 5-point Likert scale. We have the strong 4. We have the strongly agree, disagree, and strongly disagree. This is an example of a Likert scale. So what are the types of questionnaire? We have the structured questionnaire, unstructured questionnaire, semi-structured questionnaire. When we speak of structured questionnaire, this is a close-ended questions or indicators. Okay, pag sinabi mo natin close-ended questions, meron na siyang, it is a multiple choices siya. It's either A, B, C, or D. It can be a true or false. It can be yung may 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 na scaling. Pag sinabi naman po nating unstructured questionnaire, this is an open-ended question. Dito po yung mga participants po natin or respondents are freely to give answers based on the question. And the semi-structured question naman, this is the combination of both structured and unstructured type of questionnaire. So sa senior high school po, may practice. I typically ask my student to use the structured questionnaire para mas mabilis po ang data gathering ng mga estudyante, mabilis po yung pag-code and pag-analyze ng data. Okay, so I have on the screen an example of a structured. This is a structured questionnaire, and in the Another one, we have the unstructured questionnaire. So this is based on the research of Lopez, 2019. So if you notice, in the structured questionnaire, meron po siyang 5 choices o meron po siyang tinatawag na scales. Okay? Unlike with the unstructured, question lang po siya and it's the respondents or the participants will give their answer. Dito po, sa structured, mag-check lang sila. Yan po yung difference ng structured and unstructured. So, in this case, yung researcher, gumamit po siya ng semi-structured na questionnaire. Okay, so what are the advantages using questionnaire? So the advantages of using questionnaire is it can help the researcher collect data quickly from a large number of, from a large number of participants. So mabilis po tayo makagather ng data. Dahil dito, next, number 2, it encourages the participants to be open to the researcher since their identity can be anonymous because if you notice sa questionnaire, pwede po tayo maglagay ng name doon, di ba may name, and then lagyan po natin ng close and open parenthesis na optional. Yan. So it is the decision of the respondents or the participants whether they write their name or not. So dito po may mas lakas ng loob mag-answer yung participants natin. Okay. And also this is using questionnaire is very flexible. Bakit po siya? Because the respondents can answer the questions in the questionnaires in their own convenient time. Yan po. So ibibigay lang po ni researcher yung questionnaire, isasend lang po yung link ng Google Form, then maghihintay lang si researcher kung kailan po kailan po nila pwedeng i-submit at answeran yung questionnaires. Okay, so these are the limitations. Some questions or statements can be interpreted differently by the participants. Yan. So ito po yung minsan na sinasabi ko po sa mga estudyante ko na kindly construct your statements, your questions very clear because may mga questions dyan na iba ang pagka-interpret nyo at iba ang pagka-interpret ng participants. And my second remedy to this is I tell them to monitor their respondents. Baka may hindi sila mag-gets at para tanungin agad sila. Number 2 is difficulty regarding the response rate of the participants. Ito po siya. For example, nag-set ka na ng deadline. May mga researchers or may mga participants pa rin dyan na medyo pasaway. Yan, may mga medyo pasaway dyan. So, kailangan yun kulit-kulitin. And the last one, the limitation, it do not allow for the probing in the answers of the participants. So, once they check it, once nag-answer sila, hindi na natin sila ma-prove bakit ganito yung answer mo. Unless when your research is a mixed method, you may use interview, you may use focus group discussion to prove their answer. Okay, so what are the guidelines in making your questionnaires? Okay, number 1 first guideline po natin. Number 1 is you decide whether what method you're going to administer your questionnaire. Pwede po bang face-to-face or online? So at this time, it is pandemic and you students are not allowed to go out in your house, in your home. So probably online ang gagawin. So Google Form. Paano naman sir if wala pong internet ang mostly ang participants natin? So the next plan, the plan B will be you researcher ask your parents or your research teacher to distribute or help your research teacher to distribute sa kada barangay. Yun yung second plan. Okay? Number 2, draft your questionnaire. Paano po natin i-draft? In drafting your questionnaire, first of all, check your objectives. Because dapat po ang questions natin must be aligned on your objectives, on your statement of the problem. Baka bigay ka dyan ng mga different indicators, different statements, or different questions, hindi naman naka-align sa statement of the problem, and that will be useless. Okay? Another one is make sure that your direction is clearly stated. Paano po ba siya? So ilalagay niyo doon if for example, if you are asking what are your hobbies, so ilalagay niyo doon kung they will enumerate. Magche-check lang ba isang sports lang po ba ang i-check, isang sport lang ang dapat checkan nila, or will check many as they can. So dapat po ang direction is clear. The responses and their scale. So dapat may scaling bang gamitin. So dapat nakalagay din dun siya. Okay? Number 3 is validate your questionnaire. Yes, in my case, I ask my students to validate their questionnaire. Paano? So in the previous year, I told them na they will look 3 experts based sa kung anong discipline ng research nila. For example, if their study is about psychology, then they will go to a guidance counselor, to a psychologist, or to a or guidance counselor ng school or outside of the school. So yung may tatlo. Or else, pag walang available, the panelist will validate their questionnaire. Hindi na po kami reliability testing because medyo high na po siya. So I tend to lower down lang sa senior high school na level. Okay, ang importante lang doon, yung mga questions must be aligned on the objectives ng mga students. Next, number 4. Before naman you distribute your questionnaires, tend to contact them first as permission. Number 5 is attach the cover letter to the question. Ano po yung cover letter? Or yung tinatawag na permission letter po natin. Okay, so doon po nakastate yung purpose po, nandun po nakastate ang title po ng research ninyo, ano ang purpose ng research po ninyo, ang data privacy po nila. For example, once na nag-gather yun na po yung mga data from the respondents, ano pong gagawin ninyo sa data na yon? Okay, it will be remain confidential po ba? Okay? Pwede po ba silang mag-withdraw sa research na yon, yung mga participants? Or what if po may nag-withdraw na researcher? For example, may nag-withdraw. So sa amin po usually yung mga respondents po namin is within the school, for example, for social science na research. So ginagawa namin is I tend to talk with the respondents since per classroom naman siya. What if kayo na ang magre-research? Tapos ginawa sa inyo na you tend to withdraw without any reasons. So magtutulungan lang ang bawat estudyante. Just to comply with the requirement. Yun lang. Kausapin lang ng mabuti yung mga participants ninyo or respondents. Next is follow the participants who fail to complete their questionnaires by the set deadlines. Okay. So, ang gagawin nyo po is i-check nyo po one by one kung sino yung mga hindi pa po nakasagot ng kanilang mga answers. Okay. So ako personally as a researcher kung wala po silang nilagyan ng name, tatandaan ko po 'yan, lalapisan ko yung questionnaire ng pangalan. Okay, pero syempre I will remain that confidential or lalagyan ko na lang ng number para each questionnaire may track yan. So example, 1 will be Lopez, 2 will be Andres, number 3 will be Andrade. So nilalagay para malaman ko agad kung sino yung hindi nakapag-submit. Next, number 7 po is once you collect all the data, encode it right away to your computer, to your laptop. Okay, may tendency pa na mawala, mapunit, or sige po. Kung may mga tanong, open naman po ang chat box or just reserve your question so that I can answer later. Okay. Next. Okay, let us evaluate sample question. So, di ba sabi po natin kanina when we do our questionnaire, it must be simple. Okay, let's have first question. Do you wash your hands? Is this a correct, excuse me, correct question? Okay, this is unclear and a very vague question. Okay, bakit? Can we restate this into, do you regularly wash your hands with soap and water? Yan. So, much clear na siya ng content. Mas clear na siya. Okay, next. Do you believe that face mask and face shield must be worn in public? This is a combination of two questions. Bakit two questions? Saan da yung two questions dyan? The face mask and the face shield. Because, kailan mo natin. So, do you believe that face mask must be worn in public? Because, or do you believe that face shield must be worn in public? So, you may separate this question into, split this into two, because merong mga public places that do not require to wear face shield. And there are public places naman na okay lang ng face shield kahit walang face mask. So we tend to separate, to split this into two questions. Okay, next one. We have here, coronavirus disease or COVID-19 is an illness caused by coronavirus. Do you find social distancing is a way to avoid the spread of disease? Okay. Ano pong kulang, ano pong meron ditong mali sa question? Okay,
Parang
this question is very...
Ay, sorry. Parang may
Yes po, Doc?
parang may sentence na hindi related. Yung two premise.
Yes po.
Ba? Parang, sorry. Akala ko nagtatanong ka, thank you.
Okay lang po. Yeah, that's too long. So, pwede naman na straight to the point. Tama? So, do you find social distancing is a way to avoid the spread of disease? So, kung ganito po yung magiging question nyo, yung yellow, okay, go back to the yellow one, yung mas magastos po ito sa papel if you are using the questionnaire na the paper. This is a consuming length, it's lengthy, and di ba we tend sa research nga po, we tend to help our students to produce a research na medyo short lang yung number of copies, less than ang number of copies, because they provide their own coupon ban. So try to evaluate your questions straightforward na dapat. Wala namang introductory na mga statements. Okay, very good. Okay, let's have this one. Agree or disagree, the school should not discontinue face-to-face classes in times of pandemic. What is wrong with this? This is a double negatives. Okay. Dahil pag sinagot nyo po ito, still you're disagree. Tama? Kasi the word discontinue. Yan. So, dapat po straight ano lang po siya, single. So do you agree that the school should continue face-to-face classes in times of pandemic? Yan. So remember, grade researchers, especially mga senior high school nating audience, babalik po tayo sa ating English class. So when you create research, overall po yan. It's a holistic. Diba? Meron po siyang English, diyan pasok po ang correct grammar natin, papasok ang mathematics, and so on. Interdisciplinary po ang paggawa ng research. Okay. Next instrument is the test. Pag sinabi po nating test, it is a quantitative research instrument used mainly for assessing various skills and behavior, as well as for describing certain characteristics. And we have types of tests, the standardized and the non-standardized. So pag sinabing standardized, the scores are uniformly across different areas and groups. They are used by official institutions to assess a wide range of groups such as students. And this is considered more reliable and valid. So yung mga standardized questionnaires or test natin, such as yung mga national achievement test, Yan po yung mga NCAI. Those are examples of standardized tests. So because they undergo several reliability testing and validity testing. And if you notice, percentage ng mga ginamit nila is question test, I mean, they are administered by specific people. Thus, they may not be scored uniformly across different areas and group. It may appropriate in obtaining certain types of responses or measuring specific skills. So, here, this can be, this is a researchers made na mga questionnaire, na mga test. Yan. Okay. So what are the type of test question? Okay, meron po tayong tinatawag na simple meron tayong recall, we have the recognition and the open-ended. When we speak of recall, yan po yung mga closed tests, yung mga true or false. Identification. Alam niyo, I know you're familiar with identification, with the enumeration. Enumeration, yan, that's recall. When we speak of recognition, may mga multiple choice testing, the matching type, yan. For the open-ended naman, yung mga non-performance-based test question, yung mga essay questions are non-performance-based. Pag sinabi naman po natin performance-based, those example, you need to create a dance. And so you're going to prepare a rubric for that. Now, we have also here, so yung mga sample na po kanina, those are for social science research. Now, what if your study requires laboratory test? Yan. So para naman sa mga scientific experimental research na ang ginawa nila under practical research. So we have several laboratory testing experiment and techniques na pwede niyong gamitin depending on your research problem and also depende rin po sa budget. Okay, so if your research is all about biology or biological sciences, meron po tayo pwede kayong gumamit ng microscopy. So I know may mga yung schools niyo po siguro may microscope, so you can check the microscope level of an organism or a material. You can use the tissue culture if you want to create a new tissue based from the plant. Aseptic technique naman, it is a technique po ginagamit to avoid contamination ng ating mga materials, ng ating testing material such as yung mga bacteria natin o yung mga gamit. I know you're familiar with this, dissection. Yung mga frog, the commonly na ginagamit, the frog. So we tend to dissect the frog and check the parts. Okay, we have also the microbiological test. Ito yung napakalawak na test sa lahat. So we are using the bacterial testing, we have the viral testing, we tend to test fungal testing, yan po siya. We tend to test the microbes level of in a food. So makikita nyo dyan kung may yung sa mga street foods, kung may mga yeast, may mga molds na content, yung mga kinakain natin. Yan. We have the water testing, dyan din po. We have also the agarose gel electrophoresis. Ito naman po here, we tend to dissect and fragment the DNA. Check nyo po yung DNA. So medyo higher na yan po. And also this is now very common today. Dahil COVID po ito, the PCR test or the polymerase chain reaction test. Or commonly this is the tinatawag po natin is the molecular photocopying. Here we tend to photocopy the DNA and test it. Yan. So I will not go to details of that dahil this topic actually is for grade 8 for special science class. So yan ini-introduce po sa kanila yan. Yan, we have also for the physical testing, we have the weighing, timbangin, we have grinding. Yan. Testingin niyo po kung pwede bang mag-grind ang isang material. Chromatography naman po, dito po we tend to separate mixtures. Also, we have the pH measurement. Itas po natin kung acidic or basic ang isang solution. We have the stencil strength test. here we are testing yung isang material after the material being stressed or being stretched or pull with a certain ilang force ang pwedeng example sa gumawa ka ng papel made of abaca, example for that. So itetest mo ang kanyang tensile strength. So may machine yan. I ask my students to go to DPWH. Yan. So to conduct the tensile strength test dahil wala po tayo dito sa DepEd. Wala po tayo ditong machine for that. So I tap several public offices such as the DPWH to conduct the tensile strength. So i-stretch po yung papel. So kung gaano kalaking force hanggang sa mapunit po siya. Yan. So we have also the electrical test. The electrical test naman po, i-check po yung voltage, the current, the ampere of certain machine or certain robot na ginawa. We have also for the chemical naman. So we have the spectrophotometry naman po. This one po is you are testing how much photon being absorbed in a solution. Example, pag yung isang solution, tinamaan po siya ng light, ilan po yung energy. Yan. We have also, I know we are familiar with the titration. Titration naman po is you are checking how concentrated ang isang solution. We have also the phytochemical testing. Pag sinabi naman po natin phytochemical testing, here naman po, we tend to check kung anong substance ang active sa isang plant na nagko-cause effect sa iyong organism. Yan. So, next, okay? So, I will be sharing to you some of our practices in school, yung mga ginagawa po na mga estudyante. Yan. So, here po, yan. Ako po yan. Pag research teacher ka po, especially once the scientific ang research, medyo volatile po kasi ang research na lang ginawa. They tend to produce iodine. If nakita nyo po yung clear na yan. And ito po yung chemical na volatile, medyo sumasabog po siya. So, kailangan po dapat ng assistance ng teacher. So dapat si teacher magaling din po sa experiment na ganito. Yan. So medyo volatile po kasi siya. So ako na po ang gumawa. Yan. And also yan po, we conduct electronics test ng robot if it is working. Here, ito po yung sinasabi ko kanina microscopic test. You tend to check, at this is po excuse me po, ang microorganism na po ito, that is it's a green algae, lumot po, ayan po ang hitsura niya under microscope. So i-check po niyan. Yan. So based on this, you can create your observation. Yan. Here is another student. Ayan po siya. Nagro-rotary evaporator po. Meaning po yung once you get an extract from a certain plant, yung rotary evaporator po is maganda po siya because pag matapos po siya mag-conduct sa machine na yan, yung extract nyo po is magiging 100% pure extract. Because po, pag may nag-extract po kasi tayo ng mga plants, from the plants, hindi po tayo nakakakuha ng 100% extract. Sometimes may water and alcohol. So through this rotary evaporator, we can get 100% pure extract. That may affect po kasi yan sa result ng inyong study. Yan. Okay. Here naman po is a study po yan. Anti-genic property po siya, yung anti-cancer, kung potential po ba yung isang plant na if you nakita niyo po yung blood vessel na Y, so di ba po ang cancer cell is sa yung plant na yun can be an anti-cancer. So ginamitan po nila ng cellphone para mas naging clear. So gumamit po sila ng hundreds of itlog to test the angiogenic property of 2 plants. And they spent almost 70,000 for this. Okay. So, yan po yung mga ilan lamang po sa aming experiments and research practices sa aming school. Okay, so let's proceed. So, you're able to gather your data. Let us process, organize, and present your data. Okay, so here we're going to interpret, present, and prepare. Okay, so what is data preparation? So, this stage of research process involves the organization, of the collected information as well as elimination of unnecessary and problematic data. Yan po. So we're going to prepare. So what are the techniques in preparing your data? So we have editing, we have coding, and tabulation. Okay. So what is editing? It is a process wherein the data collected are checked for consistency, accuracy, organization, and clarity. Okay? Take note po, ang editing is far different po for fabricating data. Sa fabricating po kasi nagmamanipulate na tayo ng data. Dito po, nag-check lang po tayo ng data natin. Ino-organize lang po natin yung data natin. Chine-check lang natin kung consistent or naka-check po ba kung lahat po ba naka-answer. Kung ng data nyo may na-miss kayo. Yan. After that you edit, excuse me po, you try to code naman. Okay. Ano po yung i-code natin? For example, yung male and female, because there was different statistical software na gumagamit po ng may mga statistician po na gumagamit nito na kino-code, dinedecode po nila yung mga kanilang data. For example, for sex, we have the male and female. So you can code this into male as 1, female as 2. Okay? That is for quantitative data. You tend to to label those, code the word, your data in word going to numerical. Okay? But sa qualitative po na research, bawal po tayo mag-code ng words into number, but still pure words lang po siya. And after that, dyan na po kayo magta-tabulate. Dyan nyo na po i-condense ang raw data nyo. Papasok nyo na po yan sa Excel. If you have your statistician, gumagamit mo ng RStata, you have the SPSS. Okay, so how are we going to present our data? So we may use tables or graphs. Okay. When you speak of tables po, it is a set of facts or values or figures that are arranged in an ordered way. It helps to condense and classify information using columns and rows. It contains at least 2 columns with heading that indicate information being examined. So that is a table. So a table po is composed of following parts. So ito po yung sa school po namin, we are following an APA format but institutional po siya. So medyo inano ko po siya. Kumbaga is medyo, although naka-follow po kami sa APA, medyo inano ko lang po siya na within our school na format. Yan po. So we have excuse me. We have A. So but make it sure po that these components must be present po, although if you modify your table. So we have the table number, the letter A. Sa letter B po, we have the title of your table. Do not forget the number and the table, the number and the title. You have your column heading, the rows tab, the table body, and your divider or your line. Yan. So table number po indicates the order of the table, your title, short description lang po ang nature of your table. So column heading, the nature of your data. The rows tab naman po identifies yung groupings po ng data ninyo. So this one we have group of we have general knowledge, mode of transmission, symptoms, and prevention. This is the research made by my students last 2018-19. We have the table body and so on. So take note of this main component of 2020, main component of a it's 2020. Okay, let us interpret. Okay, so paano po mag-interpret? Okay, so table forming result of organizing approach among the event organizers in Aklan. So this is the research made by my ABM students last 2020. Okay, so my style po, you start with the overall is 3.54, or this is highly evident of the event organizing approach of the event organizers in Aklan. So what is the meaning of highly evident? Okay, yan. Next po is, with after po ng overall, pupunta po kami next is sadya sa highest mean. So dito po is, highest mean po is the 3.19 team structure. Yan, so that is interpreted as highly evident. And then magbibigay po sila ng reason bakit mataas si team structure. Bakit siya po yung highest mean. And then, pagkatapos ng highest mean, we go to the lowest mean, which is the matrix design yung lowest. So bakit siya among those indicators, bakit siya po yung may pinakamababa. And then the following paragraphs, sunod-sunod na po yan kung functional structure, divisional, and the network structure. And then their implication. Ganyan po yung approach ko, the way I teach my students to tell kung paano pa mag-interpret. But depende po sa inyo as research teachers on how you paano po kayo mag-organize ng inyong ideas. Okay. Okay, let's have the graphs. The graphs naman focuses on immediate representation of how a change in one variable relates to another. To illustrate this relationship, graphs usually uses bars, lines, circles, picture in presenting data. Okay. When you see a line graph, okay, line graph po, it shows values that are measured continuously. It is useful in showing how the values or the quantities rise or fall over a period of time. So it often used to illustrate trends in measured data. Line graph. Okay, for example, a study of average height of seedlings in different types in 1 week. Third day lang po yung pinakita. So that is from Cardoniga na research book. Yan. So pinakita po sa ganyan. So we have yung yellow po, may composed. We have the sandy. We have the clay as the blue. Orange is the loam. And in creating line chart, the independent variable usually assigned as your x-axis, and the horizontal is assigned as your y-axis. Yan. So interpret nyo na po siya. So what do you notice in day 1? Ano po ang height ng seedlings? If it is sandy, so that is 2 cm. If it is composed, so 3 centimeters. If it is clay, it is between 2 to 2.5. Sabihin natin that is 2.25. Yan, ganyan po mag-interpret. After day 3, ano naman po ang nangyari na? Ano po nangyari sa loam? Yan, so, titingnan nyo po, that's beyond 3, loam, yung orange, and below 3.5, probably that's 3.25. Okay. How about bar graph? Okay, bar graph naman po, it shows relationship between quantities through lengths of the graphs. It shows that are measured based on certain categories or groupings. Ayan naman po. So this is a bar graph result of liquid solubility testing of rice drinking straw in various treatments. We have in water, so group 1 water, iced coffee, and the coal. So this is a research of my student last 2020. Okay, so example, what at page 7, that 60 ang 1 hour po bago natunaw ang drinking straw made of rice. Yan. Iced coffee naman po 40 minutes. Ang cold with 15 degrees at 2.5 pH 20 minutes. Yan. So yan po yung example. So quantities that are in categorical in nature are best by bar graph. So yun yung line graph po and bar graphs, those are the commonly used graphs in research. Okay po? So now, how are we going to analyze our data? So we are using different statistical tool, and these are the commonly used statistical techniques tool. We have the descriptive statistics and the inferential. When we speak of descriptive statistics, it simply provides an information that usually comes from the observations or samples. On samples, it does not attempt to predict, provide a generalization about a given sample. So here, you tend to describe the characteristics of your respondents or your information. Okay, these are the most common descriptive statistical use. We have the frequency, the mean, the percentage, mean, and standard deviation. Pag sinabi po natin frequency, you simply count, and ang gamit po ni frequency here is you tend to give summarize the categorical data. For example, ilan po ang male, ilan po ang female, ilan po ang section 1, ilan po ang section 2. Sa percentage naman po, you tend to calculate the frequency in every category divided by the total number of the participants. For example po, if male is 5, ilang percent po siya in your overall population? Sa mean naman po, it is found you tend to add and divide the number of values. At here, kumbaga is, we tend to get the average. And the standard deviation naman po, the disperse naman of your mean from the disperse of your data set relative to your mean. So the higher the standard deviation, the disperse, the more dispersed ang data set natin. Okay, for example, this one, this is a study of monthly savings and money management style. Okay, so they tend to get the frequency of the students' monthly savings. So out of 274 students, meron pong 21 or 7.7% na estudyante na may monthly savings po na 99 and below. Yan. And meron naman pong 52 students na 87 students na may monthly savings na 100 to 200. And so on and so forth. Yan po siya. Here naman po, means practices of personal hygienes of the students. Yan. So that is 2019 research, personal hygiene knowledge, and practices. So, mensural ang may pinakamababa na mean and highly dispersed, very not practice. Yan. We have also ang pinaka well practiced is the body. And we are use our scaling. Okay, next we have the inferential statistics. So it allows you to make estimates or prediction about the relationship between factors being studied. So these four are the common tools used in research, but marami pa po tayo. We have the t-test, ANOVA, and Pearson's R, those are parametric testing, while chi-square is the non-parametric testing. Yan po. So, yan. So, when we use t-test po, it is used for testing differences of two means. Two means po, with two groups. Si ANOVA or analysis of variance naman po, more than two. Okay, pag tumatlo na po ang groups ng mean ninyo, mag-ANOVA na po kayo if you want to test the difference. If you want to test naman the relationship, how related the two variables to each other, gagamit na po tayo ng Pearson R. Next, if you want to test the relationship between categorical variables, you tend to use the chi-square. Okay, so Pearson R po, that is a parametric testing. Chi-square po is non-parametric testing. For example, this one, a t-test result between the simulation test A of air quality. Yan. So we have, there is no significant difference between the control and experimental. So to interpret this, you need to go back to the mean para masabi mo na saan dito sa dalawa ang more effective. Si control ba or the experimental? Kung saan dyan ang napoprovide ng air quality. That is the work of my Olarte. Here naman po, that is ANOVA. This is a sample table of ANOVA. Zone of inhibition of Staphylococcus aureus for the 100% extract of various succulent plants. Yung mga ano po natin, mga succulent plants. So they check if it is antibacterial, if they have the antibacterial property. Yan. So there is a significant, perfectly significant 5%. So, yan. So, hindi if it is 100% extra. Next naman po, this is an example of Pearson R result naman po, daily savings and the level of skills in budgeting. Yan. So, it is significant and it is positive but low correlation. Okay? So, when you interpret po, when you create your discussion in inferential testing po, ang format ko po ginagamit is significant po ba siya or hindi? Ano po ang kanyang strength ng association? Low po ba siya? Very low correlation? High? And if it is a positive or negative, the direction. Again, if significant, ang kanyang significant po ba siya? The level of relationship and the direction of the relationship. It is positive or negative. Pag positive po, meaning ang isang variable, the example, the dependent variable, as the dependent variable increases, the dependent variable increases and vice versa. Pag positive naman po, both variables are increasing or decreasing. Okay? So, next, we have here, ito po yung correlation nila. So, 0 to 1.99, very weak. From 20 to 399, weak. 40 to 599, weak, medium, so on and so forth. So, this is an example, but and when you go to internet or to several statistics book, marami po tayong, iba-iba po siya. For example, when in medical field, iba po ang level, each level, ang coefficient interval po nila, iba-iba. Yan. Sa robotics, iba din po. This is for social research naman. Okay, yan po yung sinasabi ko kanina. If it is positive relationship, one is increasing, another one is increasing. Ganito po yung magiging hitsura niyan sa for example, in SPSS. Ganito po ipakikita niya if the two variables are in positive correlation. If it is a negative, one is increasing, another one, the other variables is decreasing. Pag sinabi naman po natin no correlation, disperse po ang data, wala po silang relasyon sa isa't isa. Okay. And last one, ito po ang example coming from the statistics.learn.com, ang example po ng isang chi-square. Yan, nagko-cross-tabulate po. Gumagamit po tayo ng cross-tabulation, meaning we tend to tabulate, we see the difference, we tend to relate the sex and the preferred learning medium. For example, sa book, there are 16 na gusto ang books and 24 ang online sa mail. Yeah. And so on and so forth. So there is no significant relationship. Okay? So ito po ang mga several ng mga statistical program o software. We have the R, we have the Stata, we have the SAS, and ako po personally, I'm using the IBM SPSS and the combination of Excel to validate and to statistically analyze the data. Okay po. So these are my reference. Okay. So can we have our synthesis? So this is our synthesis. Collection data is an activity, again po, that allows the researcher to obtain relevant information regarding your topic, your question, and so on. Yan po. So observation, interview, questionnaire, and test are examples of data collection tools. Although po, hindi ko po na-mention, hindi ko po diniscuss yun, but still, para po, for example, if you have your result na po through questionnaire, you can strengthen your result through observation, through interview. And also, you must follow the different ethical standards po in collecting data. Editing, coding, and tabulation are the techniques in data preparation. We can use graphs and tables in presenting our data, and frequency, percentage, mean, and standard deviation are the most common tools in descriptive analysis. T-test, ANOVA, Pearson, and chi-square, the common tools for inferential. SPSS and the Excel are the most another common software for statistics. Okay po, so once again, thank you po so much for listening, and you can reach me on my Facebook Messenger, in my email account, and my DepEd email if you have further questions. Maraming salamat po. May tanong po ba?
Maraming salamat din po, Doc Mikko. It was a very wonderful presentation. And we
Thank you
hope
po.
maraming natutunan ang ating mga estudyante ngayon. No? Pwede po paki-on ang inyong video. May apology ang sa akin, ang video ko ay parang merong technical problem. So definitely hindi ko ma-on yung sa akin. No? Yung sa mga participants na lang muna natin. Okay? Pwede natin i-on yung sa mga participants ang video natin for documentation purposes. I-screenshot ko lang ha for page 1. Okay, get ready. Smile. We have a total of 50 participants. Okay, page 2. Page 2, marami pa rin naka-off yung video nila. Uulitin ko na lang sa page 1 na kasi parang mas marami nang naka-on na video. Okay, lahat nating participants, get ready. Karamihan ay mga senior high school students. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Smile. Marami pa rin hindi naka-on yung video. Maraming salamat sa muli, no, Doc Mikko. Meron bang mga question dito?
Wala po. Ano po?
Some are asking Doc Mikko for a copy of your presentation. We're so thankful. It was a very nice presentation of yours. Talagang maraming natutunan na ating participants ngayon.
Salamat po.
Question.
Meron pong comment dito from Randolph. There is no significant difference on sex and terms of books and online. No relationship po.
Saan po siya na? Oh, okay. Sige po. Noted po, Doc. Noted po, Sir Randolph. Okay.
Then meron ding isa pa, no? From Edessa, Flor de Lis. Tama po ba na ang mean at standard deviation can only be utilized if the data is normally distributed?
Okay po. Sige. Pwede po tayong gumamit ng mean and standard deviation po kahit po hindi po normally distributed ang ating data. Okay po. Ginagamit lang po ang yung normally distributed po. Ito po yung pre-testing po natin kung magpa-parametric or non-parametric po ang gagamitin natin. Okay. So for example po, if your data is normally distributed, then you go to parametric testing. Okay, so not necessary po na kung kayo po ang data nyo po is not normally distributed, is hindi na po kayo pwede gumamit ng mean and standard deviation. Again po, ang standard deviation for mean is for descriptive statistics. We tend to describe po ang ating data. Yun lamang po.
Thank you.
Doc Mikko, pwede pong magtanong?
Yes po, Doc.
Si Richard po. Doc,
Yes po, Doc.
paano po mas magiging mapapadali ang buhay ng mga senior high school students and teachers when it comes to statistical treatment of data, ano po ang suggestion ninyo kasi po alam naman natin sa statistics part, particularly sa statistical treatment of data, sa data analysis ng quantitative research, dyan po madalas nahihirapan ng mga estudyante natin at saka ganun din po yung mga guro natin sa senior high school kasi halos karamihan po sa nagtuturo sa senior high wala naman talagang sufficient training no na into statistics talaga. So what can you suggest po para mas mapadali po, mas mapagaan po ang buhay ng bata at ang buhay ng nagtuturo? I mean in terms of statistical treatment of data.
Okay. Actually, maswerte po ang isang school kung ang isang research teacher is meron po siyang magaling po sa statistics and then or may makita po siyang statistician. Okay. Dalawa po yung ikaka-recommend ko po. Una po is, number one po is, if medyo may kaya po yung bata, they can hire or have a statistician outside, pwede po. Pangalawa po is, if hindi po talaga kaya, I recommend not to use the inferential testing. Wag na po mag-hypothesis testing. Gawin na lang po is go to descriptive analysis na lang. Yung gagamit lang po ng mean, ng mga frequency, ayun na lang po yung magiging gamitin na statistics para po kahit mag-solve po sila ng mano-mano using the calculator or if they know how to compute in Excel, the students and the teacher can compute the mean using the Excel. Yun po, make it simple na lang po kung hindi kaya. Yan po, Doc.
Salamat po, Doc.
Answer ko po yung tanong.
Opo, salamat po. Thank you po.
Doc Mikko, meron pang tanong. When do we know that the data is normally distributed? Ito po galing kay Armido Galivo.
Paano po siya paano po natin malalaman? Meron po yan sa SPSS po, meron po tayong Levens test diyan. So pag it is 0.05, that is not normally distributed. So actually nasa software na win po yan siya. It's the work of statistician. Yan po. Then otherwise you use non-parametric.
Hello po.
Thank you, sir.
Ano po yan? So kung may software po para mas mabilis po na mas may data po agad na lalabas doon sa software. Ano lang po, I'm not good too much po sa statistics but my expertise po is in research statistics using SPSS po.
Thank you, Doc Mikko. Meron pang comment si Randolph Katunggal. In addition to we used parametric test for normal distributed data, otherwise we use non-parametric test.
Yes, tama po.
Hello po, sir.
Meron din po interested to invite you.
Hello po.
Si Eileen May Perez.
Sige po.
Dito ba si Eileen?
Pag-usapan na lang po natin.
Statistical treatments daw po, Doc Mikko.
Sige po, pag-usapan po natin kung swak po sa schedule.
Sige.
Doc Richard, pwede po ba?
Sige po, Doc. Basta po kung saan po tayo makakatulong.
Yes po. Salamat po.
Meron pang additional question, Doc Mikko. How about example of questions for qualitative? That's from Virginia Berganyo.
May topic po kasi po is for quantitative research po lang. Focuses lang po tayo for quantitative research. For qualitative research na po yan, wala na po tayong statistical technique na gagamitin, but we have different data analysis po dyan na gagamitin po. So we are using transcribing of data, coding of data po. Okay po, so medyo kaliwas na po kasi sa ating topic and my focus only po is for quantitative research po.
Better attend our next webinar.
Yes,
that will be on
yes,
next Wednesday. Mas maganda kasi qualitative research na yon, no? Sige. Meron pa bang mga tanong? Mag-share lang ako ng screen ha, sandali.
Si Dr. Flor Delis gusto yatang mag-share, ma'am. May
Sige
nakasulat
po,
po sa
sige
chat.
po.
Hello po, good evening po. Yan.
Good
Ano
evening
ko
din
lang
po.
po, share ko lang po regarding po sa sa normality. Tama po si Sir. May sa SPSS po, pero meron pa pong isa pa po yung Polymorph Smirnov at saka po yung Shapirovic. Yung po yung usually po na ginagamit for normality test. And then ang share ko lang po, ang rule lang po is that if you have your set of respondents already for the sample size, dapat po meron po kayong iba pa po na may similar characteristic for the testing po of normality test doon po sa separate sa respondents ninyo. And then the decision rule will be if the sig value is actually greater than 0.05, then your data is actually normal po. Aside from the Levens test. Kasi medyo mahirap po kasing hanapin yung Levens test. Yung po kasing Kolmogorov, Smirnov at saka po Shapirovic, nandun lang din po yun sa descriptive stat at saka po sa descriptive at saka po sa taas po noon. Medyo nalimutan ko na po yung interface na.
Opo, yan sa may taas, sa taas. Magkakatabi po sila.
Opo. Magkakatabi po sila doon. Yung po, i-add ko lang po kasi baka po ma-encounter po ng mga bata po. Okay, salamat po.
Salamat po, Ma'am Edessa.
Thank you din po, Ma'am Edessa.
Pero po in my case po, hindi ko na po yan masyadong inaano sa mga bata. Hindi ko na po yan dinidiscuss po yung mga normally distribution and so on and so forth po. Kasi po mas dadagdag po na burden sa kanila. Opo. Importante lang po is the children know the correct sequence, the proper protocol po in conducting research po.
Sige po, thank you po, Doc
Magtanong.
Meron pang
Sir
tanong.
Mikko.
Sige po.
Okay. Magtatanong.
Hello po.
Good evening po. From Pampanga High School po, sir. Tanong ko lang po, sir.
Opo.
Ano po bang ilang percent po ba talaga ang tinatanggap natin as a sample size? Kung supposed to be, if we have 100 respondents, okay na po ba ang 30 persons? Example lang po nagtatanong.
Okay po. Sa pagkuha po ng sample size, may inaano po tayo, 'di ba? Ang dalawa po yung binagbabasihan ko. Yung una po is yung gagamit po ako ng Sloven's test, Sloven's formula po. And then yung pangalawa po is RRL based po. For example, may similar po na study, yung study ng bata, papacheck ko po sa RRL niya kung ano yung ginamit niya po doon, kung ilan po yung ginamit niya pong sample size. And then yung second po yung Sloven's formula po. So, sa Sloven's formula po, doon po meron po tayong easy calculator po diyan sa ating internet po sa Google. Okay po. Another one po is kung gagamit po tayo ng parametric testing po, number one rule po kasi sa parametric testing para makagamit po tayo mga t-test Pearson R, dapat po at least nasa 30 po ang pinaka-minimum natin na data set po. So kung mga descriptive statistics like mga mean lang po, mga frequency, kahit ilan po yung pwedeng gamitin. Okay po. And then also po, try to consider po na kaya po ba ng estudyante mag-print o if it is mag-print or mag-gather ng data more than 100. So ibalik niyo lang po yung tanong sa kanila kung for example may lumabas po na sample size doon sa calculator na 257, example lang po. So ibalik niyo po sa kanila. So kaya niyo po ba itong 257? So pag nagsabi po ang bata na hindi kaya, then lower down po yung sample size natin. Pwede naman po ipalitan yung margin of error doon po. Okay, yun lang po.
Thank you, Sir Nico. Thank you, Sir Nico.
Yes po.
Sige, salamat. Meron pong comment. Sana po meron din tayong seminar sa statistical writing din. Request po Doc Sanchez from one of our participants.
Sige
Opo
po,
yun, sir.
we'll consider that po. Pakilagay niyo po sa evaluation natin. I think merong part ng evaluation na tinatanong kayo ano yung mga possible or mga na gusto nyong maging events natin sa mga susunod po. Paki-include niyo po when you evaluate. Salamat po.
Oo. Same person din ba yung nagtanong na ano po ba talaga ang acceptable sample size? Is it 30%? Ito ba yung nagtanong kanina?
Yes, ma'am, ako po. Sir
Oh,
Kalibo.
sige, thank you,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you, sir. Sige, sir. Thank you. Meron pa bang tanong? Comment from Angeline Pangilinan. It is not about the statistical tool to be used. It is about what statistical tool needed to be used to answer the SOPs. So, thank you for the comment. Parang marami talagang natutunan ating mga participants ngayon, no? Ang ganda ng mga comment nila. Additional information for sample size calculations. Look for Rosoft Sample Size Calculator or G-Power app sa net. Libre po ang app. So, magaling din ito, ano? Thank you for the additional option, Ma'am Edessa. Ang ating mga senior high school students ay magkakaroon na rin ng option, no? Thank you for the information. Meron pa bang mga clarifications sa mga participants natin? Sige, so pwede na ba i-share ang screen ko? Sa ating mga participants, don't forget to answer the evaluation. Meron ng forwarded link sa ating chat box. Please answer it as soon as possible, no? Then, yung certificate, I'll just read the content. ETCOR, Educational Research Center, through its advocacy project SAGIP MANANALIKSIK for everyone, practical research to quantitative research, quarter 2, 4 weeks, 4 to 7 lessons, presents this certificate of recognition to Dr. Mikko Jan D. Lopez for his invaluable time and expertise as lecturer in the webinar entitled Practical Research to Quantitative Research, Quarter 2 for weeks 4 to 7 lessons, MELCs-aligned, held on January 27, 2021, under the advocacy of Project SAGIP MANANALIKSIK for Everyone of ETCOR Educational Research Center. Signed, Dr. Berdanet L. Lijarde, Overall Project Coordinator, and signed Dr. Richard D. Sanchez, Head Research Consultant. A warm of virtual applause to our lecturer for tonight. Thank you very much, Doc Lopez.
Thank you po.
This time, we would like to invite our participants once again. No, if you have some senior high school friends who would like to know more about qualitative research, since we just learned about quantitative research, this is another opportunity once again to learn about qualitative research. So we have another webinar. This is set on February 3 at same time that it's Wednesday. We have this lecturer, Dr. Carvajal, and our moderator, Ma'am Lizil Sahibel. No? Please have your registration ahead of time and mark this one in your calendar. No? So sa ating mga magagaling na mga estudyante, ito ay maging magandang oportunidad, no, sa inyo na magkaroon na rin ng kadagdagang kaalaman, no. Before we end our webinar for tonight, I think it is high time now to hear a closing remarks from our head research consultant, Dr. Richard Sanchez. A warm virtual applause to Dr. Sanchez.
Maraming salamat
Sir,
po,
your
Professor
speaking now.
Soberano. Unang-una po, bago ko lang po makalimutan, we also would like to promote another project of ETCOR Educational Research Center. Ito po yung ating project sa SAGIP MANANALIKSIK one-on-one. So ito pong ginagawa natin ng mga webinar na ito na marami tayong nakikinig at mayroon tayong lecturer. This is a project sa SAGIP MANANALIKSIK for everyone. Meron naman po tayong isa, yung sinasabi ko nga project sa SAGIP MANANALIKSIK one-on-one. Ito naman po yung merong isang research consultant from ETCOR. Isa po sa amin ang personally po mag-guide sa isang estudyante na nahihirapan sa kanyang pag-aaral when it comes to research. So sa inyo pong mga nakikinig ngayon, sa ating pong mga estudyante, maliban po sa nag-benefit na kayo sa pakikinig dito sa ating free lecture, free webinar, maaari din po kayong kung gusto niyo pong magpa-coach individually hangga't kaya po ng ETCOR. Marami naman po tayong mga research consultants dito. I think nasa 60 plus na kami. So mag-message lang po kayo doon sa Messenger sa Facebook page po ng ETCOR. Although meron po kasing link yon for registration. Just in case lang na hindi niyo makita kaagad, pwede pong mag-message na lang kayo na you are interested to become a beneficiary nung project sa SAGIP MANANALIKSIK one-on-one. Kapag naaprubahan po ang inyong application, meron po kaming i-assign na isang research consultant sa inyo from ETCOR na ang trabaho niya ay i-guide kayo one-on-one. Hanggang sa matapos ang research mo, pinapakita. Parang ano po yung dating niya sa inyo, yung advisor ba ganoon. Of course, hindi naman po niya kukunin yung trabaho ng teacher ninyo, kundi po nandun lang po siya para mag-guide. So that is another project po ng ETCOR. So maliban po dito sa nagpapa-webinar po tayo ng libre na marami tayong audience, kung gusto niyo po talagang matutukan kayo ng isang ETCOR research consultant, I am encouraging you to apply in that particular project. And of course, we recognize po ang project coordinator ng one-on-one, si Dr. Adrian Lawrence Carbajal. Siya po ang dean ng graduate school ng San Sebastian College Recoletos in Manila. So thank you po, Dr. Carbajal. And of course po, we also would like to recognize the project coordinator naman po. Itong ginagawa po natin na ganitong lecture, si Dr. Bernadette Lejarde, isa pong master teacher from DepEd Division of Pampanga. So salamat po, Dr. Bernadette. And of course po, we would like to thank po ang ating mga naging katuwang ngayong araw na ito, si Professor Ellen Grace Soberano ng Negros Occidental. Maraming salamat po, Professor, para sa inyong pagmo-moderator dito sa ating webinar na ito. Yung pong inyong tulong ay talagang na-appreciate po natin para sa bata. And of course po, ang ating napakagaling na lecturer, napakabata lang po ni Sir Mikko mula po sa Aklan, sa Regional Science High School ng Region 6 diyan po sa Aklan. Maraming salamat po, sir. I appreciate your lecture po. Nakikita ko talaga that you have a command of the subject. Alam mo yung pag nakikinig ka sa isang speaker na kahit po na paano mo pa ikutin ng speaker, kung alam niya yung lecture niya, kung meron siyang command doon sa subject ay alam niyang sagutin. So maraming salamat po, Dr. Mikko Jan Lopez. And syempre po, sabi nga po niya kanina, ang talagang lecturer po talaga sa webinar na ito ay si Professor Dina Soriano ng DABSU. Kaya lang po ay nawalan po siya ng boses. After 5 years ay bumalik po yung kanyang karamdaman na yun. And hopefully po, pagdasal po natin na gumaling siya. Salamat po sa pagsalon nyo sa ETCOR as Sir Mikko Jan Lopez. And of course, we would like to thank po yung ating mga research consultants na nandito from ETCOR Educational Research Center, na hindi ko na po babanggitin na isa-isa, pero maraming salamat po. And syempre po, ang ating mga ibang mga manonood po maliban sa mga estudyante, may kasama po tayo ditong mga professors, mga guro sa iba't ibang mga schools, public, private, higher education institutions and basic ed. And syempre po ang pinakabida sa ating lecture na ito, ang mga Pilipinong kabataan. So nakikita nyo po, marami pong gustong tumulong sa inyo, gusto po kayong tulungan ng ETCOR. It's just a matter of willingness po. You follow our page po para makita nyo po yung mga susunod nating events that we are all doing po. Hashtag para sa bata. Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat din po, Doc Richard. Okay, so your participation to this webinar is indeed our joy. Keep safe, everyone. Thank you.
Maraming
From your
salamat
ETCOR
po.
family.
Salamat po.
Thank you po.
Salamat po.